tap in and tune in with you to just discuss a few things. So the topic today is the impact of microaggression. I did a talk earlier this month, and the topic was speaking in colors. And the whole idea was to talk about how to improve the narrative and how we connect and interact with each other. I gave several examples to help paint the picture for the audience. One of the story was about a neighbor went to go and mow another neighbor's yard after the neighbor told him to stop. And he proceeded to do this act of goodwill because he said, I see your kids always out here really trying to, have fun and play. And I know as the grass gets high, that snakes can, be hiding within the tall grass. And the neighbor said, well, I can't pay you right now. And the neighbor said, that's okay. I'm just hoping someone pay it forward and do the same for me and my grandkids and my kids. And so what the point was for that is that several of us can see, read, and hear the same things, yet come away with different viewpoints and perspectives. And the reason why that is the lens in which we see things. Now, that is just a lead in to microaggression. The reason why I want to talk about microaggression because there are so many layers to microaggression. It's from people who are entitled due to their culture, people who are entitled due to their class, people who are entitled just because. And we all have some form of biases and or microaggression. And someone asked me, what is the definition of microaggression? Because what I did also was I added a piece of Colin Kaepernick's Black and White, the documentary with Ave DuVernay, and really outlining his life. And so let me just read what the dictionary says about microaggression. A statement, action, or incident regarded as an instance of indirect, subtle, or intentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group, such as a racial or ethnic minority. We see microaggression happening in so many different ways. Even though this definition has been read, the essence of microaggression is an entitled person believing they have the right to say what's on their mind, no matter how disrespectful or hateful it may come up. So I'm just going to do a little talking about this, really, just a little bit. I'm not going to be on here long today. But I just want to say that when microaggression is occurring within you, and going back to the story of the guy doing a good deed of mowing the lawn, people's perspective shows up in different ways. Some people felt that the guy was doing a good deed by mowing the lawn and that it was great for humanity, while others felt that the receiver took advantage of the person doing the mowing and wanted to ask the person, when will you be paying back that person for their good deed? That's the same with microaggression. People see things from the lens in which they either was told about people, situations, or environments, or it could be something that they learned, something that they heard. But a lot of times what happens is those essence of microaggression can give a false sense of entitlement or a false sense of truth. Because when a person is telling a story or, from their viewpoint, I've seen so many different things. Like you see the Karens and Kevins out here. You see how I saw one where, and I don't look at TV much or media much because of the narratives, because of the discrimination, prejudices, or isms that people are so comfortable with lately. But I saw one where a lady felt it was okay to block these two guys with her body, and they were in their car. There were no other cars in the parking lot. And her pet peeve, her issue, her ism, her bias, her problem was that they parked over the line. Now, keep in mind, there were about probably 20 spots and no one was around but these two guys in their vehicle. And she felt that she needed to be the parking police. Now, the issue I had is that she had her child with her. And this is what the two guys pointed out well as well. The young man was about 15. And they said, wow, you're doing this in front of your kid. And she's like, look, yeah, you're parked over the line. And it's like she did not hear anything they were saying as it pertained to her son. Her son even went as far as said, Mom, don't do this. Don't do this. They're recording this. This is going to be on social media. She would answer very vaguely, very subtly, but her whole focus was they were illegally parked. And that's all she was concerned about. Now, the microaggression is this. I'm sure, like many of us, that she probably have straddled the line a little bit, maybe been exactly on the line, maybe been over the line, because just like them, she probably did not see anyone else in the parking lot and felt it was okay. But when it comes to other people, then the microaggression rears its ugly head and entitlement shows. Now, in this case, it was not blacks and whites. It was a white woman, her son, and two white guys. The microaggression is becoming so prevalent now that it's impacting everybody. It's really getting out of control. Now, I'm not sure of the end result of that, but I'm going to give you some other stories I happened to come across throughout this year, where a policeman felt it was okay to pull a paraplegic out of his vehicle after he continually said, I can't get out of the vehicle. He has a handicap, a disability. He has ableism, which is disability. And once again, entitlement. Yes, you're a police officer, but if someone's telling you, hey, I can't get out this car, then you will want to stop for a minute and use cognitive skills, abilities, common sense, and say, okay, let me approach this differently. But microaggression, it crosses the line in so many different things that people tend not to think things clearly through. Instead, they react, once again, based upon what they thought, what they've been taught, what they've read, what they've heard, what they've been told. Social media, friends, fear, all different types of platforms are causing people to start freaking out. having a really hard time in showing up in the proper way, showing up with love and peace and humility. Instead, people are full of fear, full of hate, full of whatever. And it's really showing up in so many different ways. Now, mind you, it doesn't always cross cultures. It's not always whites and people of color. Sometimes it is dealing with classism. You know, I'm reading the book Evicted by what's his name? Matthew Desmond. Yeah, I'm kind of behind. This book been out for a while, trying to catch up. But to see how landlords deal with their tenants, that entitlement that they have and how they treat them. Yes, you want your rent, but make the dwelling, the home, the apartment habitable. What's wrong with that? What then you want to execute microaggression when it doesn't come out the way you want it to. And what I mean by that is they're asking you to fix something. Your thing is you should be happy I let you in here, live with it, live with the sewer, live with the clogged up sink and a toilet that doesn't work. And these people have children in this condition. And we're not going to even talk about the mental impact it has. This is why I titled today The Impact of Microaggression, because that's a whole different thing. It goes really, really deep. And it goes so deep that it has a long lasting impact for years, even generationally, depending upon the interaction and the outcome. So microaggression crosses so many different lines. You know, you can't just say it's culture. You can't just say it's class. It's any time that anyone feels that they are entitled. And it's really interesting because people are beginning to feel entitled because of the fear, because of the lack that they have inside. I'm sure, just like me, you've heard stories where people are very wealthy, but they're very unhappy. And you have some people who is, you know, living their dream as an artist, musician, and may not have all the money, but they're happy doing the gifts and talents that they've been blessed to do. So money is not always the issue. Wealth is not always the issue. Material possession is not always the issue. Sometimes a better issue can be I'm living my dreams. I'm making a difference as a teacher. I'm making a difference as a musician. I'm making the difference as an artist when I paint murals on buildings or on government walls or in different office buildings. I'm living my dreams. I'm happy. But if a person is not happy, then it tends to show through microaggression. You have these Karens who are just shouting and screaming and hollering because their food is not done a certain way. And I, for one, have been very upset myself when you wait in line for some French fries from McDonald's or wherever, and the French fries are cold. So I get it. I do get it. But I don't feel so entitled because for me personally too, is it takes a lot of energy for hate. It takes a lot of energy for discrimination, prejudices, biases, or ism. It takes a lot of energy to actually operate within that realm. It really does. And a lot of times you see it in how a person looks. They look aged or old or beat down. You can see it in their body, their movement, everything about them. You don't see any joy. You don't see any happiness. But yet and still, the person feels so entitled that they feel it's okay to be mean to someone and to do some of the things that they're doing. But the thing is, really, is it? Because the thing is, we have to really realize that what we're doing to another person, it's going to come back to you, good and bad. You're going to reap what you sow. Don't think that you're going to get away with that behavior. Don't think that, and let me just say this too. This is the funny part. The microaggression is a subtle act where people can pretend like they didn't mean what they did until something impacts them. Like the Karen in Central Park and how he was recording. She was so entitled, she didn't think about the fact that he was recording. So she continued to lie and say, oh, he's attacking me. Oh, he's doing this to me. Oh, I feel threatened. But you're walking around, you're just doing whatever. And you could see the distance between the two of them. So how did all that happen? As you're talking on the phone and you're saying these things, you're not being cognizant that people see the truth? And this is how microaggression gets so out of control. And it gets to a point where people start saying, well, that's not what I meant. Well, that's not what I said. But you really did. That's really who you are. Because when there's pressure, whether it's a wedding, a funeral, trying to make a living, what have you, the true you really shows up. It really shows who you are and what you're made out of. But the subtlety of it all is what speaks and what says what's really going on. Like I liked how Colin in Black and White, how he broke down different things like his parents, when he wanted to have the Allen Iverson look, all of a sudden this talented young man, I mean, he was a GOAT for real. Baseball, basketball, and football, but you look like a thug. You're raising a biracial young man, but you did not know anything about the Black culture. And so therefore you didn't realize the things that you were saying to your son or the things you did not say to your son in protecting him, those were forms of microaggression. Don't say to a child, oh, you passed that bullet. The policeman didn't give you a ticket. Oh, you're lucky. Oh, no. Explain to your son how biases, prejudices, racism, and isms show up and will show up in his world moving forward because of his darker skin. And it's really amazing, especially those who have to teach our children. It's really scary because you don't know what's being taught in the classroom. Once again, it doesn't have to do with culture, white and Black, white and Latino. It doesn't have to. White and LGBTQ plus. It doesn't have to. It can be something as simple as, where do you live? Oh, well, since you've been bussed over here, then the teachers say different comments. It can be something as simple as that. And going back to the subject, the impact of that microaggression is going to live with that child for a couple of reasons. If that child do not have anyone they can confide into to talk about how they're feeling, or if that child do not tell anyone and just take it in because, oh, well, I just have to deal with this because as I watch my family, I notice how they just deal with stuff. Then they're going to act out eventually. And then that's how some of our people of color, end up in the prison system behind their anger or their emotions. Now we know the prison system, the law is it's a double standard. We know that. We know that. I have seen too many times where women have kicked, hit, and did all kinds of things to policemen. And they did nothing but keep on trying to arrest a woman or what have you. Okay, a white woman. Where also a Black woman is fussing with the policeman, not kicking and screaming, but fussing with them and saying, well, no, that's not true. Yada, yada, yada. And he has thrown her, punched her, and did all kinds of things to her. And she gets a felony, but the white woman don't. So this is really something how the world is showing up. And especially with COVID, especially with what's happening today, it's really, really difficult. It's really, really hard to try to be in a spirit of love, humility, understanding. But the irony is, at the end of the day, we're going to have to find a way to do it. It's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're going to have to find a way to do it. It really saddens me that we're in this space and in this place right now where people are being heavily discriminated against for so many reasons. And it really saddens me that it gives the appearance that someone is not actually executing intentionally, displaying their prejudices, biases, isms, or any of those things on a person when in actuality they really are. Now, keep in mind, I do understand that a lot of people who feel entitled could be frustrated, living in fear, or what have you. But the irony is those toxic filter frequencies are real. And I have this statement I always make. Don't allow toxic frequencies of others to transfer to you, because it can cause you to become who they are. And you can become toxic, and you can become the microaggressor based upon some variables of things that has impacted you and causing you to hurt people as they hurt you. I'm going to read a couple of things from chapter 3 of our Speaking in Colors book, Transmitting. We just have to really, just be mindful of how things are showing up, and be mindful of how we're interacting with each other. When people are dealing with toxic filter frequencies, it's a couple of things. They think that their behavior is normal, number one. Number two, the feelings, expressions, emotions, a lot of times are not directed at the right individual or groups. Like the, what's his name? This is Kyle Rittenhouse. You just go around shooting people because you feel like it's okay. So now there's a trial for that. And it's really unfortunate that that seems to be okay. But my question is, were you really upset at those people that was protesting Black Lives Matter and Antifa, as they call them? Or was it someone else that you were upset at that caused you to shoot and gun down some people? I think it was 3 people, 1 survived. When people are operating in microaggression, which is I also call toxic filter frequencies, they go through different phases of toxicity. The first is white, which is disinterested, cold, and uninviting. The second one is gray, indecisive, and emotionally detached. And the third is black, demanding, dominating, and intimidating. I saw that really act out in Colin in Black and White when I gave them names to help illustrate the story. LeBron was the black guy with the locks, and Bob was the one who owned the firm. And watching that interaction between the two was really interesting because Bob felt entitled to say what was on his mind. And for him to say what was on his mind was interesting because let me kind of paint the picture. So Bob was impressed by LeBron's resume, but you could tell he had in his mind how LeBron was supposed to look. And when he saw LeBron, he was challenged within him because he had his own view and vision of how he felt LeBron should look. So he said, "Hey, I'm impressed. I was really impressed with your resume. Welcome to the firm." And so then he said, "You're very clean, articulate, and bright and nice." Now, why is that a thing to say? So right now, in that case, I saw it as the first frequency of white. He was really kind of cold because he felt that he was in the right to say what he wanted. Okay. Then he continued on and said, "Wow, no one told me you had interest in hair. Is that the style? Will you be wearing that hairstyle to the job, to the office?" Now he's executing the second frequency of toxicity, which is gray, indecisive and emotionally detached. Because now, even though he's smiling and he seems okay, he's really trying to separate himself right now for what he's really feeling. So he's kind of dumbing down in a sense what he's saying, but he's not dumbing it down. Now, the third toxic filter frequency of black could have shown of demanding, dominating, and intimidating if LeBron had turned the tables and said the same things to Bob. Because Bob would have came back with, "You're disrespecting me, my pride, my appearance, and so forth and so on." And so Bob, would have been acting in such a way that he's out of control. Because it was okay to say that to LeBron, all the things he said, but if LeBron would have said that to Bob, it would have been a totally different outcome. Now, a lot of times in those cases, when people are operating with toxic filter frequencies, they have to realize that also you can impact your desired outcome. Meaning, suppose LeBron had not dealt with microaggression all his life, and dealing with Bob was his first occurrence. LeBron could have immediately said, "You know what, Bob, after careful consideration, I've decided I no longer want to work for your firm." So that great talent, capabilities, everything that Bob was looking for, he could have ruined based upon the microaggression and the toxic filter frequencies that he displayed. So people have to be mindful of how they're showing up, what they're saying, what they're doing when it comes to microaggression. You have to really, really be mindful. Because if you don't, the impact that's going to occur may not only affect that person that you're directing it towards, but in a way, it can come back to bite you as well. I have another saying. Negativity is toxic and can spread like a virus. But with preventive care and how you think and what you speak, you can begin the healing process and balance your color frequency. When people are impacted by microaggression and it's causing some damage to them internally, causing them to react externally, they need to do some work for themselves. They need to do some healing for themselves. And there are some quick things I'm going to say to help to set the stage. When you're dealing with people and they're executing microaggression, or you find yourself displaying microaggression, remember, it's subtle. You can see someone with purple hair and say something that's out of line to that person. No matter how subtle, no matter how hidden it appears to be, if it's doing anything that's making a person uncomfortable, not safe, feeling isolated or anything like that, that's microaggression. So you want to stop it. So to help yourself, whether you are a person who continually display microaggression behaviors, or you're challenged with dealing with microaggression behaviors that tries to place itself upon you, do some of these things and do it every day and do it all through the day if you have to. Before you, when you wake up, before you place your feet on the floor, scan your body. Just close your eyes and see how you're feeling. If you find that you're having a headache or you didn't sleep well, then put on some meditation music or do some words of affirmation to set your day. I am more than enough. I am blessed. I lack nothing. I am loved. I'm good. I'm kind. Whatever you need. Think of what you need for that day to set your day. Meditate and pray to set your day. Before you put your feet on the floor, you're not that busy. Yeah, you might be late, but if you're late anyway. 5 seconds, 5 minutes is going to make a difference. Then you say to yourself, okay, I didn't sleep well, so let me do this. And then you start checking in with yourself as you're getting dressed. You might need to have some essential oils to put under your nose, to place around your temples, to place on your lymph nodes, whatever, because all those things really do help as you are setting your day and going throughout your day. Because if you don't do that, what happens a lot of times is the funk that you felt, that headache or the lack of sleep, that's going to set your day. Where you rush into, I'm going to be late, so I'm not going to set my day. And then you find that there's a lot of traffic. And so that's making you more upset because you're really late. Then you can't find a parking place, you know, whether to catch a bus or whether, you know, at the office. Then at lunchtime, the line is too long and you only have 15 more minutes because for some reason there was an accident as you were walking to a specific restaurant or cafe. So all these things are going to trigger your day. And it may not happen that day, but it can happen a couple of days later because you feel you're okay and you have not set your day. And today is Wednesday, for example. So Monday, you didn't do it. Tuesday, you didn't do it. Now, Wednesday, your day is just fully destroyed. When you set your day, it helps you to be able to do the things that needs to be done as it pertains to just making your day a whole lot better. So you want to set your day. You want to also check in with yourself throughout the day. You know, having meetings can be really hard. It can be very dreadful. And also, let me say this too. You want to set your day because you don't know what day other people are having. There's back in the day, people were on a lot of drugs, heroin, crack, cocaine, but now it's opioids, it's pills. People are on a lot of pills these days. There's a lot of sick people out there, and sick in so many ways, not just sick because their health is bad, sick because they're depressed, they're sad, different things are happening, and they are popping pills. There are some people, especially during COVID, they said that there's a lot of domestic violence in the home. So you don't know what you're dealing with as far as people in their lives. So you got the microaggression, you got the impact of that, and then you got your life. So you want to really try to balance that stuff out to make sure that you're okay, because you're dealing with other people who got their own issues, and you don't want to wear the cape of what others are dealing with, to become your truth. So you really want to just make sure that you're focusing on yourself, regardless of the microaggression that's out there. And, this is also a good time to just challenge yourself to do better. Regardless of what other people are doing, regardless of how other people are acting, you want to do better for yourself. You want to be better. You want to be mindful what you're allowing to be transmitted into your spirit, into your space. Because when people are executing microaggressions, they're hurting, they're going through something, they're unhappy, and they want to see other people unhappy too. Now, the bad part about it is sometimes that microaggression can lead to death. You're calling the police on someone because you claim they attacked you in the park, or they're selling bottled water. There are little kids selling bottled water on your property. You don't own the apartment building, but you're lying to 911 saying that some kid is selling bottled water on your property. Now, as a 911 operator, yes, it sounds very bad. But one thing I'm really liking is some of these 911 operators are being a little bit more clever and a little bit more, what's the proper word? A little bit more mindful of how they deal with these calls now. They're asking a little bit more questions, Okay, so it's actually on your property. So what is your address? Okay, so what is the address of where the child is selling the bottled water? Oh, so it's the same address. So is that apartment building or what? So they're asking more questions because they're realizing they have to neutralize and be the common sense in these microaggressive situations and circumstances. Because you don't want to have a policeman being all gung-ho because they're aggressive too right now, and they're upset and fearful and going through their own things. So if the 911 operator is dealing with microaggression, no, let me back up. The person calling in is dealing with microaggression, who's talking to a 911 operator who's dealing with microaggression, who's transferring the call to a police officer with microaggression. Then that's going to transfer when they come on the scene, guns pulled out, ready to do something, because the transmission of the whole thing is showing up differently. And so that's making the whole situation kind of crazy, So we got to be mindful. We got to be mindful. We got to be mindful. So I just want to really talk about that, because in this climate, it's really hard to try to show up, try to be okay, try to not let and not wear the cape of microaggression that others are putting off on you, and trying to live your life. You just really want to be mindful that you're okay. You really do. You want to also take some steps towards really understanding and knowing that that is microaggression. Checking in with yourself when microaggression happens, to be honest about how it's impacting and affecting you. But not wear it, not own it, but be mindful. Don't pretend like it's not happening. And you might want to journal it. You might want to go talk to a therapist, a pastor, a friend, someone who is even keeled. Now, you don't want to talk to someone, you have microaggression, you don't want to talk to someone who has heavy microaggression themselves, because they're going to give you bad advice. So you want to be mindful of what you're feeling, how you're feeling. And you want to be able to journal those feelings, those emotions. Because as you continue to deal with these things, especially if you're the recipient of a microaggressor, you want to improve how you show up. You want to be mindful of how you react. You want to be okay and let them be angry, upset, or whatever emotion that they got going on. Because I have, throughout this year, and like I said, I don't look at TV much, but throughout this year, I have seen a lot of angry people who are microaggressors. And I say to myself, why are you that angry? Why are you that angry? You went into that person's space and you're causing something. And because they don't respond or act the way in which you want them to respond and act, now you are behaving in such a way. So you want to be really mindful how all this is showing up. And you want to be really mindful of what it takes. I'm signing off. I just want to say thank you for your time and hope to see you again later. Goodbye.